Hello and welcome back to Let's All Laugh At, the football podcast that thrives at someone else's expense. I'm George and I'm joined this week by Dan and Johnny. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good here. Cheers.
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad at all.
Awesome. Well, we say all good, but all three of our teams lost this week, I'm pretty sure. So in that aspect, it's not all good. And we'll start with the biggest and the baddest of the bunch, I suppose. Liverpool v City. Lots of build up to this game. How it was certainly Liverpool's biggest game of the season, ending 4-1 to Man City in the end. I mean, Dan, it's your third defeat in a row at home, albeit to the best opposition you've had by far in those three games. I mean, what is your assessment of the whole thing? I mean, surely your title challenge must be over now.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think we win the league from this position. It's a really difficult one, to be honest with you, because it's hard not to sound too blasé and too, not bitter, that's not the right word, but obviously when we were doing well, like Liverpool fans were ecstatic. I'm talking this season, because, you are happy when your team's doing well. And now it's going pear-shaped. A lot of Liverpool fans, myself included, are like, well, what do you expect, given the injuries we've had and everything that seems to go against us week in, week out in terms of injuries. Like, people always go on about Van Dijk and Gomez and Matip being out, which is obviously massive, but, a lot of people don't realise that almost every game, like in the build-up to the match, we lose someone else. Like, it's been Mane recently, and then we had Alisson last midweek, was out injured. It's a constant, kick in the teeth at the minute, and it must be getting to the players as much as it seems to get to the fans. And as far as, losing these three games at home go, the record that we obviously lost recently of home, undefeated, and City they're talking about them, they've not won at Anfield since 2003. Like, those records are going to go when it's empty. If we were ever going to get beaten at home, it was going to be while the stadium was empty. And the same goes for City. Like, even Pep Guardiola said, the next challenge for them is to play well at Anfield when it's full. It's a different prospect altogether. So that sort of thing doesn't concern me too much, to be honest. But as far as title challenge goes, yeah, I think it is done. And there's no getting away from it. We were terrible on Sunday. But I think there's mitigating circumstances as to why.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, there's been so much talk about the injury thing in general, hasn't there? But, I don't understand people that say, Liverpool have no right to complain about it because it happens to everyone. By that logic,
it doesn't happen to everyone. Not like this. I'm sorry.
Well, even if it did, by that logic, no team can complain about injuries ever because there's always someone worse off than you. By that logic.
Yeah, true. I just think I get where you're coming from. And people are saying that. I've never known. So we started off the season with 3 senior centre backs, and they're all out for the season. That doesn't happen.
To be fair, we have 3 centre-backs out right now, and we did for last season. We didn't have any full-backs for the majority of last season.
I imagine they'll be back at some point, you know what I mean? This sort of thing is remarkable in a way,
Yeah, well, regardless, whether it's worse or not, the point is it's still really bad, and that would affect anyone's season. It has affected people's seasons badly before. So, I mean, I suppose looking past the injuries into more the mentality of the thing in general, I think you're right. I think no fans in the stadium is a big bet, even though I'd argue a lot of people have said Liverpool's atmosphere on a match day, at least in the Premier League, isn't always the best. I mean, you'd argue that's because the opposition isn't always the best, and the Champions League is much better, I'm sure. But either way, it's better than nothing. It was a big factor either way. Even if fans didn't feel it that much, the players surely did. So, to not have that there is sort of encouraging in a way, like you said, because that will eventually return to normal and it will provide a massive boost as well. But I also think part of it is the mentality. Last season when you won the title, everyone thought you peaked in that season against City, and because City beat you too, it's like, well, there's no way you're going to do it again. And it allows you to sort of slide under the radar and carry on as normal. But now you stormed the league last season, and everyone's like, right, okay, we'll do it again now. The pressure is definitely on you now because a lot of people didn't want you to do it as well, so they were deliberately forcing it onto you. So I think a lot of things have just happened at once to sort of make the situation as difficult as possible, really.
Yeah, I obviously agree with all of that, to be fair. Touched on the atmosphere, you're right. Obviously, I've been to a hell of a lot of home games against perceived low opposition, and for a long time the atmosphere isn't great. But that tends to be the case. Say we go 1 or 2-0 up in the game, just for instance. At that point, there isn't much incentive to be. But in these games that we're talking about here, where we've lost, certainly the City one. I mean, I remember playing City a couple of times of late, and the game's been over before they walked in the ground because of the atmosphere outside the stadium. Like it's terrified them, and they've been quite open about that. But say we went down to Burnley like we did, or Brighton, those last 20 minutes, half an hour, are a different kettle of fish in that stadium. It's a different story altogether. But yeah, I think it's just been a culmination of anything that could have possibly hurt us this season has done, and it's just all boiled into this. I mean, the whole rhetoric of being the worst champions and the worst title defence is nonsense.
Not even close. Leicester and Blackburn, just to name two.
It's simply not true as well. I mean, years ago, teams got relegated after winning the league, and not only that, people forget this time last year, City were about 20 points behind us. So instantly, that one's worse. But people like what they see, don't they, in terms of Liverpool suffering? And I get it, and it's fine. I just, more than ever, we've got to reset and get out of this season as best we can. That's all there is to it. Maybe have a go at the Champions League. Who knows? But I just can't wait for football to be back to normal.
Yeah, believe me, you're not the only one. But yeah, Johnny, looking at Liverpool from more of an outsider's, I mean, less of a rival's perspective now than you've ever been, unfortunately. But as sort of a who was seen as a top 4/top 6 rival at the start, even though if Liverpool were more title challengers than necessarily top 4, top 6, how do you view the decline, quote unquote, that's happened in the past year or so?
I mean, it's just a personal opinion, but I think some of the Liverpool players may, because last season they were superb. Last season Liverpool, and when they weren't playing well, they were grinding out results. This season, I think some of the players may, like the Burnley game and the Brighton game, man for man, they're better than both teams, and I think maybe in them games they're thinking, well, we're better than them, so maybe we don't need to put 110% in, if you know what I mean. And I just think they got found out a little bit. I mean, they are missing the fans massively, and of course having Van Dijk out is and Gomez as well. It's a very strange one, Liverpool. If you said 3 weeks ago that Liverpool had lost 3 home games in a row and potentially maybe not even getting in the top 4, which is a possibility. I think they still will get in the top 4. I would have laughed at you. But I mean, as for Sunday, I mean, it wasn't great, I must admit. Especially I had Liverpool to win in a bet as well. That wasn't great either. but even when Liverpool made it 1-1, the penalty, I never thought they'd crack on and go on and win the game. And it wasn't. I mean, the fact Alisson made 2 mistakes was unbelievable. I don't think he's made 2 mistakes in his whole Liverpool career, to be honest. It was a weird performance, but take away from City, they were superb. But Liverpool, they are missing key players, and I'm sure once they get that win again at home, they'll go on a little run again. But it's very strange. But I do think some of the players maybe in the lesser games where they're obviously better than the teams man for man, maybe they're kind of going, we don't need to put the effort in as much because we know we're going to beat them. That's what I think anyway. I'm sure Dan will completely disagree with it, but that's just my view.
Yeah, all right.
So, I won't disagree with it now, but I would do in general, yeah.
Yeah. No, you mean, yeah. And the fans are massive as well. I think the fans wouldn't have allowed that kind of performance against Brighton and Burnley. I think, and the players we needed a lift as well, because when there's no fans in there, you've got no one to give you a kick up the arse.
No, exactly. And just to finish off on that, I know we've been on it a while, but this sounds so petty and so half arrogant from a Liverpool point of view, but just take City as an example. Like, not many teams, and you're right, George, in what you say in terms of some games the atmosphere is a bit crap really in Anfield, but when the atmosphere is right in Anfield, when it's how it should be, not many, if any, stadiums in the league can generate what we can. And that's not me saying that. You're talking like, Sir Alex Ferguson and Andy Cole and Arsene Wenger have all said similar things. Yeah. Like, it's a special place, and certainly on European nights, like you touched upon, but we can get that in the league. So not many teams have missed the fans as much as Liverpool have. Certainly after winning the Premier League last season. Could you imagine what it would have been like?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And when you use City, like City famously have no atmosphere, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of their thing. And they've probably been hurt less than anyone else from having no fans. It doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? So it's a petty one, but it's definitely a factor. Football's different now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when Salah scored that penalty, I think if there was fans there, it would have won, I think. And unfortunately, because It's weird having no fans. You get an equaliser in a massive game. There's nothing to give you that extra lift, is there? And the fact the Kop would have been absolutely going mental. So
exactly. Yeah, there's only so much you can lift yourself, and that seems to be not happening anymore.
Yeah, and who you got this weekend? I'm sure you'll beat someone, and you're going to
Leicester, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Well, even it, it's a big game. Big game, and you got big game players will need to step up a little bit and get a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that will be a big game, particularly with Leicester's home form. That's what they need to get right, really. I mean, the only game they've lost away from home this season was against you lot at Anfield. So, big test for them and a big test for Liverpool as well. But I suppose, really, all you've got left to look forward to is the Champions League. And you've got Leipzig next Tuesday in, where was it? Hungary, I think it was moved to? Yeah. So, it's not even in Germany because of COVID. But, that's... I think on one-off games like that, I think you do have a chance because Champions League is just a totally different ball game in general, and we saw what happened. I think you finished fourth the year. That was the year you won the Champions League was the one with City. My bad, I thought it was the year before.
Yeah, we have done that there before. 2005, we finished maybe fifth and won the Champions League.
Yeah, you lost to us at Selhurst and you won the Champions League.
So as the Champions League goes, we've got. As much as we moan about injuries, we have actually got a couple of players coming back. Jota's close, Keita looks close, and Jota's been a big miss. People underestimate that. He was brilliant at the start of the season.
Yeah, he was unbelievable.
So he'll be good to have back. And listen, the Champions League, we've got an affinity with the competition. Again, the fans will be a problem. But as for the change in the venue goes from Germany to Hungary, it doesn't matter, does it? Because an empty pitch without fans is just an empty pitch anyway. It doesn't matter where you are, does it?
Completely spot on.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll move on to you, Johnny. We'll spread the love around a little bit. Aston Villa v Arsenal, 1-0 in the end. Honestly, that was quite a predictable result in my opinion. It has kind of gotten to that point where Villa have just been so consistent for the most part, and particularly with the 2 red cards that you had, Arsenal. It's weird to say that Villa's team looked so much stronger than Arsenal's, but that was the case, and they got their rewards in the end.
They did, and it was a good performance from Villa. I mean, I didn't actually watch the game because I tried to find a stream for it, and I finally found the stream, and we're 1-0 down, so I kind of didn't bother after that. It wasn't a great performance. Yeah, I mean, it was bad defending. It wasn't a good day at all. I mean, I don't want to talk about decisions. I feel I'm getting sick and tired of talking about decisions, but I do feel that if it was Ezri Konsa, I think he went through the back of Lacazette and got a booking. And then brought down Saka, and I thought that's could be or should be a second yellow. I thought Lacazette should have had a penalty. Martinez was grabbing him. We didn't get that. I mean, we didn't deserve to get anything out of the game. Let's be fair, we were poor. But I do think a couple of decisions went against us. But beyond that, it wasn't great. And Jack Grealish had a bit of a field day. He was causing absolute havoc. And Villa are a good side. They really are good to watch. And that Ollie Watkins, I'll tell you what. He's English, isn't he, Ollie Watkins?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Tell you what, the way he's going, he might be a bit of an outside bet, but I'll tell you what, he could be a little cheeky bet to go to the Euros because I like him. He's got good movement, he's quick, good finisher as well. He probably won't start for England, but I'll tell you what, Southgate will be watching him, I think.
Yep, Ollie Watkins, excellent signing. Spent a lot of money for him, but looks absolutely worth it. I mean, I don't think I can think of a single bad signing that Villa have made all season. Their summer, in particular, has completely transformed them. I mean, there will be higher expectations on them next season as a result, so I'll be interested to see how they cope with that. But they're just decided with so much hope, so much ambition, and it's kind of gutting to see from an outsider's perspective. And when you're in our position, I don't know how it must feel from an Arsenal perspective, I suppose.
Oh, everyone's better than us, mate, at the moment. Yeah, it's just, it's not great. 11th in the table. In February now, it's not where we want to be. But a bit of a wake up call. We've had 2 defeats in a row. We were flying high. 7, 8 unbeaten, whatever it was. So it's a bit of a wake up call. And we've got this weekend. We've got Leeds, I think, this weekend. So
Leeds at home, on the Sunday.
Big game, and. We need a win. I don't think we'll get into Europe. As much as I would love us to get an outside chance, I think that's probably gone now. But beat Leeds and who knows. But I think it's all about the Europa League now against Benfica, which is a big game. But it's not great. It's not great. But it's one of them things, isn't it?
The Europa League's an interesting shout. I kind of forgot why you were talking. You were in the Europa League then.
Yeah.
I think it's such a big gap between December and the Champions League, isn't it? I don't know why they don't just have the games in January and finish it in May.
I think their game's been moved as well,
Yeah, I can't remember where we're playing.
I want to say in Greece.
I think it is Greece.
Yeah. But sorry, I think that's a method into the Champions League for you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, you're the side that could, firstly, go and win the Europa League. You're probably alongside. I mean, Napoli went into it, I think, didn't they? So they'll be strong. And obviously United seems like, but there's no reason why Arsenal can't go and win it. And that, say you finish ninth, for argument's sake, but win the Europa League, that's Champions League football next year. That.
Absolutely, I'll take it every day of the week. Although I think, unfortunately, if we got into the Champions League, I think we'd be embarrassed sometimes where we have bad defence and stuff. But it's a route in, absolutely, and we've got a chance. I mean, Benfica, they're no mugs, but I think we could beat them. I don't see why we couldn't.
Well, the thing is, earlier on in the Europa League, you were playing the kids because the league was still not up for grabs, but potential top four was, I suppose. But now, you could reset and go, right, we're not going to get top four or even top six, maybe. So let's play Aubameyang, Lacazette, etc. in the Europa League.
Absolutely. It's in Rome, by the way, the game.
Oh, is it? Oh, I could have
Rome, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting game. Say Benfica are no mugs. But so I think you're right. I think we can, against teams like Dundalk, who were playing the kids, where we can play the kids against Dundalk. No disrespect to Dundalk, but we should be beating them.
Yeah.
But yeah, with our squad, I think we've got a chance. I was gutted last year we missed out. We lost to Olympiacos at home. We should have beat them. And I think we had a good chance last year, but we messed it up. So this year is definitely our only chance of a trophy, to be honest.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you both, I suppose, from an insider's and outsider's perspective. Do you think Arsenal have gone forward this season? I mean, you have played a lot more younger players like Smith Rowe. I mean, Saka was playing a lot before, but he's settling into the team a lot more now. Players like that. And I don't know if I'll say your form is... You started out really badly, but you have gone on good runs as well. But you are worse off than you were last season, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, how do you view the whole thing?
I mean, it's weird with Arsenal because, we've always been known to score loads of goals and not be very great in defence. And that's been a problem this year. I mean, our defensive record this year is not actually that bad. We haven't conceded that many goals. But unfortunately, we haven't scored that many either. And that's been the problem. Our defence, I think might even be the second best in the league or something silly like that. But we just unfortunately, we had that little
23 goals conceded. There's only a few teams better. I think it's only Spurs and Man City, have a better defence than that. So yeah, third best in the league.
Yeah, so and unfortunately we had that little gap, didn't we, of 6-7 weeks where we weren't scoring goals, weren't creating goals. Now, and that's been the problem. If we could sort our defence out and score goals again, that'd be great. But it's always one level with Arsenal. We seem to score goals.
It's got David Moyes. We need to start scoring goals in order to win games vibes.
Yeah, Michael Owen, he was the one, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's weird though. Yeah. We've always been known to score loads of goals and concede goals, but now we seem to not concede many, but don't score many, which is it's frustrating with the players we've got. Have we gone forward? It's a positionally no, because we're 11th. But I think I've seen defensively, we're better. I mean, we've got some of the deadwood, and but as for that's a very difficult one because as I say, positionally, no, we haven't. But in some ways, we have.
Yeah. Okay then. Well, I've put it off long enough. We'll move on to Palace. And there's really not much for me to say that hasn't been said already. I mean, even that I say every single week at this point. It's getting ridiculous. I mean, 2-0 to Leeds. Never looked in the game in the slightest. Never looked like we were trying for it. I honestly don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, the thing that annoys me the most is you look at Leeds, right? Whatever you think of their football, whatever you think of their manager, they know how they want to play. They have a system. They have players that are trained in that system. They practice that system and they play it every match. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. But they know how they want to play. Burnley as well, right? They don't play nearly as attacking. They're a much more quote unquote anti-football side. But they know how they want to play, and it works for them. They sit back, they soak up pressure, they get the ball up to the big strikers, and they out-muscle their opponent. And it's worked for them for a long time. What is our method? What is our system? Get the ball out to Wilf Zaha and pray. That's our system. It's pathetic. It's honestly pathetic that with the players that we have, I'm not saying that we have to outpass Leeds United and Marcelo Bielsa, but they've conceded. We put 4 past them earlier in the season. They're there to be got at. Give it, use the players that you've got. Mateta, I feel so sorry for him. His first start, he actually looked decent, but he was getting no service. I mean, you could drive a bus between the midfield and the attack. He's so isolated. There's no effort to try and communicate him at all. It's not about attacking. It's about having a plan of attack. You know what I mean? I really don't like thinking about Palace anymore. I don't like watching the games. I don't even like listening to the games. I don't like even knowing what the result is, knowing that we've just completely bottled it from the start. I just want this season to be over. I really do. And there's talks of uncertainty over the budget and uncertainty over the contracts. A lot of it's probably just paper talk generating clicks. But, there is considerably more and more appeal giving Roy Hodgson that extension and just letting him keep us up for another season while they sort things out, which I think if they do that, they are going to lose so many season tickets next season. So many fans are done. They hate him. They want him gone. They don't want to watch the games anymore. So I think it would be suicide for the club as far as I'm concerned if he was to stay. They're not going to get rid of him now because they're just so scared of relegation, especially with Zaha's latest injury and the games that they've got coming up. They don't want to risk it, which I understand to a degree, but it's just going to be much more miserable for the next 3 months of the season. And I really, with the fans, with no fans, with all that's going on, not being able to even enjoy the games that we do win, with the games that we win not even being like that good. I'm happy whenever we win, but our fans aren't. They want attacking football. They want to outscore the team. They want to outplay the team. And they complain when we don't. So even when we win, it's just a negative place. And I'm sick to death of the negativity. And ultimately, that's come down to the fact that our manager has set us up to have a negative mindset and doesn't want to get the most out of the players we have. So I don't know what else to say. I might as well just replay this speech when we lose to Burnley on Saturday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sorry. I think from my point of view, from very much an outsider's point of view in terms of Palace, I think what you just touched upon there is probably what I was going to say should happen, in terms of I'd probably leave it with Roy till the end of the season just to make sure you stay up, which is more than likely what he'll do. But I do feel that the time has come in terms of him moving on, because he's been with you now some time and he's kept you up consistently during that time. But that has to go somewhere at some point. Like he touched on Burnley, even they went to Europe,
God, Burnley getting to Europe was the worst thing to ever happen to this club because it's raised the expectations so much that now that's right, where we have to be.
It's right in a way, because at some point I've always thought, these mid-table clubs that are perennial mid-table clubs, like at some point something has to happen, whether that be getting relegated or having some success, whether that be in a cup or league. Burnley obviously finished 7th and got, to the Europa League, whereas some teams in the past have gone and won the FA Cup. Like, something has to give for a football club, because you can't just continually finish 14th and that's it. Like, that's not football in my eyes. Like, it's great in a way because you don't get relegated, but where's the fun in that? You know what I mean?
Well, it depends how you do it as well. Like, if you're doing everything you can to win as many games as possible, then I'm fine with finishing 12th or 13th if that's where our squad belongs. But when you go into games expecting to lose and just trying not to lose, if you're going to Man City, then fair enough. But Leeds away, again, they're not a bad team, but they proved earlier in the season we can beat these guys comfortably.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
True. Yeah, very true. Like I said, I think he's probably scared at the minute more than he has been this season of getting relegated. That's probably reflected in the way you play him. As for who was to come in, you got a plethora of young managers to choose from without a job at the minute. Whether they be good enough or not is a different question, because the one thing you do get with Hodgson, like I say, is probably survival. Whereas if you went to an Eddie Howe or a Frank Lampard, for instance, or John Terry, you're risking relegation, aren't you?
God, if John Terry's point manager, I will stop going to the games. Honestly, I'll stop watching the games. Period. But
it was pie in the sky name, it's just a name,
Thankfully, I don't think they'll appoint him, because I've said a million times that they're just as worried about relegation. That will be their remit, is staying up until they sell the club. They've made it perfectly clear. I think Eddie Howe and Sean Dyche are the two biggest admirers from the people in the board. So, and I think, seeing as how Dyche is still in a job and still has a contract, I think more than likely Eddie Howe will be the one that we go for, unless someone else snaps him up. But again, Celtic still haven't sacked Lennon yet, so until they do, that's a real possibility. But the budget thing is the problem. Is he going to want to come to a club? To be fair, I suppose every club's in the same boat with COVID, having all the losing the crowds. But is he going to want to come to a club that, one, he's not going to have full control of the transfers like he did at Bournemouth, and two, that's been hit. So it is worrying how many, I can't think of a worse job for so many managers. Like the amount of players we're going to have out of contract, the amount of rebuilding that needs to be done. It's a great job for a manager that wants to prove themselves. It's not a good job for a manager that's already proven themselves. And we want a manager that has proven themselves. So that says everything you need to know about the direction we're going in.
We've signed some decent young players of late, so there is the fundamentals of a half decent side there, like Eze obviously, and that Tariq Mitchell's a decent player. I know he wasn't signed, he came through. But there's a few decent young players there. So you're right, there's a lot of deadboard, like Johnny touched upon with Arsenal, that you probably, not deadboard, that's harsh, but older players.
Well, it does. I mean, yeah, I get what you mean. It does feel like that. I mean, players like Dan and Cahill, they've been great servants to the club, but they're just so old that they're so inconsistent. I mean, they were both awful last night.
It's not necessarily inconsistent either with them, because they're probably performing at a very similar level all the time. But when you come up against a team like Leeds that just run forever, it's hard. Like, I mean, I've seen the Gary Cahill clip when he got completely done by that Brazilian kid. That's going to happen because that Brazilian kid's brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, and Cahill is at an age now whereby he's not going to turn as quick as that lad. So there's trouble there. You know, that's the sort of thing you need to freshen up, if you like.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And, you know, I'm sick of everyone saying Palace are the biggest one-man team in the league, because there's no reason we should be. You know, you mentioned Eze, you mentioned Mitchell, you know, Jairo Riedewald, etc. There's more than enough players to build a half-decent team out of and give Leeds a decent game, and we just don't bother because Wilf is the only person in that team that actually pushes us for the win. Against Man United, he even said, let's not be afraid to play our game and let's go and win it. And that was ultimately what won us the game, because he was the one that gave the confidence. Without him on the pitch, you've got a bunch of players who are talented, but have had the confidence beaten out of them over the years. Yeah. Like, I really don't like talking about Roy this way, because you're right, he has kept us up and he has given us the stability that we've needed, even if it wasn't always that pretty. But we can't carry on like this because it is not sustainable at all, especially if Wilf goes in the summer. Like, people keep saying it's not Roy that's kept us up, it's Wilf. And looking at the stats, I honestly can't blame them, because it really does feel like that, especially watching last night.
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, I do like Wilson. It's almost like the game's moved on where he's still in management, isn't it? It's like, you know, same like him, Allardyce, you know, the game's moved on for managers like that now, in my opinion. And he's been a good servant for Palace. He's a decent manager, Hodgson, but yeah, I think it's give him to the end of the season and then get someone new in. I think he'll probably get someone.
I'm not even sure I can last that long, to be honest. We've got 15, 16 more games left of the season. I can't stand the bickering on the timeline. I can't stand the same way we set up. Like, I don't want to get rid of him, but it does make you wonder. Maybe just rip the Band-Aid off quickly, and especially with the managers out there, just get them used to the new team and just let them decide what they want.
If you secured safety at some point in the next 5 or 6 games, maybe, just for instance, then potentially, and it looks like someone could do that, because the bottom 3 are well away, aren't they, by the looks of it? So there's a chance, you know, you could get someone in them for the last 8-9 games, whatever it is, and that's not a bad shout. But yeah, it's a difficult one with Hodgson. I mean, he is old, isn't he? Like, we talk about the game moving on past it, and it has done, I completely agree, but it's not a surprise when he's well into his 70s, like.
Yeah, and I think that's not a bad idea, actually. You know, when you're safe in the next 5 or 6 games, which you probably will be, as you say, as Dan said, Fulham and West Brom and Sheffield United, they're well away. And I think it'd be if Palace aren't looking at other managers now, you know, for the summer or whenever, I think that's negligence from Palace. In my opinion.
I'm sure we are. There's no way we're not looking at the manager already. I refuse to believe that. Just like how we were looking at players before last summer. Like, we're not that reactive. Like, we are moving in a more proactive direction. So in a way, I'm optimistic about the summer, but it's hard to be when you're seeing shit like this every week.
Yeah, but imagine it's like, I didn't watch the game last night. I kept up to date with it, and
neither do I. I just like I know how the games are going to go at this point. Like, all I have to do is see people talking online or commentary on the radio, and it's like, yeah, I know exactly what's going on.
yeah, it must be frustrating.
Yeah, but we will move on, because I don't like moaning about my team, and I am sick of it. But yeah, you'd be surprised at how much I actually do it. But we will move on to a much more serious topic. As I'm sure everyone's aware, Marcus Rashford and a number of other minority footballers in the game have been the target of a lot of abuse on social media, racial abuse. Now, there's been a lot of, obviously, the kneeling for Black Lives Matter has been going on, or at least the Black Lives Matter cause has been going on since the end of last season. And that's still been happening. And, you know, we really, this is really the first bit of action we've seen taken towards it since then. There's been talks of stuff going on, and there's been UK have appointed the first official football hate crime police officer. It's the division that's being set up to try and combat that sort of stuff. Now, I feel like there will be debates broken out over this, on my views in particular, but I want to give you guys the chance to speak first. And I'll start with you, Johnny, because I know you're always keen to talk about this when this comes up. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. It's just, with 2021, when the people are still being abused online for the colour of their skin, it baffled me when it first came out with the whole thing that happened in America. I was shocked by it then. I'm still shocked by it. I just don't understand anyone can do something, say stuff like that because it colours someone's skin. But more needs to be done. I don't understand. I don't know what. I had a debate with someone the other day saying about with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and blah blah blah. I think to set up an account, I think there should be some sort of you've got to provide some sort of personal details or something like that. And if you do start spouting vile, horrible, racist views, then they can find and know where you are. And some people might not like that and go, I don't want to give my details over. But if you're not doing anything wrong, there's nothing to worry about, have you? I'm just sick and it just frustrates me. And the whole Black Lives Matter taking the knee and stuff. And the players are doing it and fair play to them, but the people in charge aren't doing enough, in my opinion. It's just a very frustrating topic, isn't it? Because it's been a year now, near enough, since it all started with the George Floyd thing, and we haven't really moved on. And people are still getting abused for being black. And it's just I can't work it out why anyone would abuse anyone especially Marcus Rashford. Well, I mean, what he's done for this country as well. I mean, but the question is though, are these people abusing him? Are they? What I'd love to know is, are these people from this country, or are they abusing him from other countries? That's what I'd like to know. Is the abuse come from this country? Not that it matters, but is it coming from this country, or is it foreign land? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I echo everything Johnny said there, really, especially in terms of having to provide some sort of identification to go onto social media. It's just an absolute no-brainer, in my opinion, because 90% of the people who would do this sort of thing and give this sort of abuse just wouldn't do it if they knew they were going to be publicly known as who they were. Just wouldn't happen. It's horrendous in this day and age. It's and it's all, at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is reactions to football matches. That's what it stems from. For instance, like, I think United maybe didn't win a game, and say someone misses a couple of chances, and the players are getting abused afterwards. It's nonsensical in every sense of the word. Like, it's utter madness. And a lot of the time, it's hard to pinpoint either where the abuse is coming from, or what particular fan group, because I know in the past they've been like for instance, I won't use a club, but whoever's club that is, fans of that player or that person's club have been the ones abusing them because they've lost because of XYZ. So you're not a supporter of that football club if you go online to abuse them after the game. Like, that's just not. But then it's hard to know if they are or not, because you could just create your own fake identity. You know what I mean? It's a proper difficult one. But yeah, we shouldn't have to have. It's good that we have brought a specific officer in, or a specific body of the police force to deal with this sort of thing, but it shouldn't have to exist. You know what I mean? Like, these incidents should be so few and far between that we can just deal with the perpetrators then and there. But unfortunately, it's that widespread. We're talking like it's been 2 weeks just of this little bout of abuse, and it's just nuts. Like Johnny touched on there, it's been a year since the George Floyd stuff, and nothing's changed. Like, literally nothing has changed. Like, every week, footballers are taking the knee and what have you, which is great, and it represents a good thing. But, in terms of actual action, we're having the same conversation as we had 6 months ago. You know what I mean? And they have to try these things. Whether identification in terms of Twitter and Facebook works or not is a different kettle of fish, because it might not. But it has to be tried. They'll never know unless you try. And I think it's a good way of stopping the people that do it, because they're going to lose jobs and potentially face prosecutions and stuff. So it's got to be worth a try, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a conversation with someone on Facebook the other day, and they were just like, well, if you don't like being racially abused, then just get off social media. And I was like, well, then
That's not how it works.
And I'm like, so if they go on social media, Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and they come off because they've been abused, the person who's doing the abuse wins. And that's not the world we should be living in. You know, why should I think it was who's the female presenter on Sky Sports News, ex-footballer Leanne Sanderson. She was saying I get regularly abused on a daily basis, but I'm not going on social media because if I do that, then they've won, and that's not what it's all about. Social media, it's a great tool to get to to talk to footballers and stuff like that. But some people just they're just idiots, and if it works, that police force, the racist, hateful officer, whatever you want to call him, if it works, brilliant. But it's just as I said earlier, it's been a year now, and we're having the same conversations, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I do echo a lot of what's being said here about the abusers in particular. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think I need to say, how little we tolerate that and how that's not acceptable for anyone. But in terms of the solutions, this is getting. I appreciate we say this every time we talk about a topic like this, that it gets political, and of course it does. And I'm happy to talk about it, but it is a warning for people. Like, if this is something you want to hear about, then might as well click away now, because there are going to be some hard discussions here. But personally, I've said for a long time that I think that the concept of non-violent hate crime is a total joke. Like, I think that even though I don't condone this abuse whatsoever, and it's completely unacceptable, and I think there should be consequences, I don't think there should be. I think that the legal consequences should be very strict, in my opinion, in that you have to prove, you should be able to prove that someone is continuously harassing you, and also that you yourself haven't made an effort to stop them. Because if it's just a case of blocking someone and it goes away, like, a lot of people will do that after one time, and it's, in my opinion, I don't think somebody should be arrested for that. But if they're continuously abusing their power, like, and it's particularly if it's having an effect on someone, because a lot of people are more sensitive to abuse than others are. Like, there are some really, really tough people out there that can look at that and, completely shrug it off, and fair play to them, because I certainly couldn't. But a lot of people can't. So if they want to do something about it, and they're continuously getting it to a point where it's genuinely affecting their mental health, and they can prove that they've tried everything they can to stop it, and it's still going on, then I'm okay with there being consequences for that, because people are abusing their power. But I think when you open the door to people being arrested for abuse, like, I don't want to say everyone's going to get arrested for making a mean comment, but, depending on what the laws are, like, we do have laws at the moment where that is possible, and particularly where the police force is so stretched at the moment, I feel like there are better places to be directing that force right now than mean messages on Twitter. Like, I'm not trying to downplay it, because these are horrible and they shouldn't be happening in the first place. But I really do feel like we shouldn't be getting the police involved in this unless absolutely necessary, because it is very murky waters, believe it or not. And people are deliberately doing that in order to try and get away from it. And it does make things difficult. But in terms of the identification as well, to verify social media, again, I understand where that comes from, and I am in favour of it to an extent. The problem I have is there would have to be laws in place to ensure that the social media companies aren't allowed to do anything else with it, and it's properly regulated. Like, I mean, we all talk about, the whole government surveillance thing is a totally separate topic on its own. But the argument you brought up before, Johnny, if, to the effect of you have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide, I mean, that's not always true.
No, spot on. No, that is actually spot on. But people worry about being tracked and stuff. We've all got smartphones. We've all, if they want to track us, they can track me if they want. I mean, I only go to the shop to buy some milk, so they're tracking me. I'm telling you now.
But people have the right to not be tracked as well, though. Is the thing. Like, you might not care, but someone else might be a hell of a lot more paranoid about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, in other countries, I'm sure, I'm not certain on this, but I'm sure, like places like China, that their version of Facebook, is it Weibo, whatever it's called. I'm pretty sure they, if they say anything bad about the government or anything like that, they know where they are and they can track them down. I know we live in a different country we live in a democracy and all that sort of stuff, but it is murky waters with stuff like that. It's just very frustrating with the whole thing, and I just I'm at a loss of it all, really, because it's the same conversations. And I will say they should get arrested for, because we can, well, we're adults, or some people are anyway. You can, after a game, if you felt a certain player hasn't played very well, you can, I have no qualms in saying the player's not played very well. That's fine. You can have a debate or criticism. You know, when it comes to abusive and racial, that's when they get. I think the places like Twitter and Facebook, they've got to do more to shut these accounts down. And it's difficult. It's very murky waters, but you know, it's also, I hate to say the word, it's become boring, because that's, you know, of course racism is not boring, of course it hasn't, but it's the same conversations we have every time. No doubt in 3 months' time we'll have the same conversation again, and we go, what's happened? Nothing. And it's just it's very, very frustrating. I totally agree with the taking the knee and stuff, but I think was it Les Ferdinand who come out of saying that, you know, it doesn't change anything, and you know,
he said for QPR, they were saying that.
In some ways I do agree with him, you know, because it's like, well, we're taking the knee and nothing's really been done, you know, and I don't know what to say anymore.
Do you feel like it's become a bit of a hollow gesture at this point, that we've been doing it for so long? And
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, because for the first month or so, you know, when football came back and the George Floyd stuff was very fresh, like it had resonance then, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's completely wrong what's going on. But at some point, like, when does it stop? Like, there's nothing wrong with what they do, and in many ways, if it was part of football forever, it wouldn't really matter. But the actual meaning behind it, although it shouldn't go, has kind of faded away now, because when nothing else happens around it, like it hasn't done, then so what, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, and I fully support taking the knee, but it's got to the point now, it's been a year, and, you know, we saw what happened a few months ago when with Millwall booing it, and, you know, it's getting to the point now where you go, well, if you still want to support it, we all support it. You know, we all support equal lives, absolutely. And I think, you know, if they had a little thing on their shirt saying Black Lives Matter, rather than taking the knee every game, you know, they know they're supporting it, and we go, yeah, that's fine. Taking the knee now, it's, you know, it's I think it's more of a hollow gesture now.
Yeah, but in terms of the regulations, I mean, I'm in favour to an extent of registering, you know, verifying your identity on social media, as long as it's done responsibly. What worries me is if it was to be introduced, it wouldn't be done responsibly, and it would open the gateway for companies and governments and all sorts to have access to your data, because we know that has happened in the past with other companies like Google. So yeah, and also in terms of the hate crime, I just feel like it really shouldn't be. It should be the most extreme cases only that are looked at, and I feel like you really can't. I can't justify arresting one person for making one racial hatred comment. Like, you know, I really, even though I don't agree with it, and I think with employment as well. Like, if their identity is there and the employers want to fire them, then that's totally their decision. And, you know, and I support that as well. Like, you know, companies have the right to do what they want. If they don't think it should be justified, then that's absolutely fine by me. But in terms of the government themselves and legal consequences, I feel like that's just a step too far for me personally. But yeah, okay. We will move on, and so we will move on to a less serious topic for sure, but still one that's relevant to discuss, and that's refereeing in general. I mean, we've had this topic multiple times, but Mike Dean has been in the headlines in particular for the Man United Tottenham game, I believe, and then the Fulham West Ham game as well, with the red cards. Not the Tottenham game, the Southampton game, excuse me.
Yeah.
Both of those games with the red cards. So I think was it 3 red cards in 2 games that he's given? Now he's asked not to be referee any more games on the weekend. But it's interesting, the one that he asked that, and that the Premier League decided he shouldn't do that, given how many mistakes he's made. So I just wanted to ask the question, like, should referees themselves be given red cards? Like, should there be some sort of discipline system where if they make mistakes, they're not allowed to referee games?
We'd have none left.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, like that sounds like I'm being funny, but
no. That's the reason I'm laughing is because I completely agree. Like, no, it's just weird to think about.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? They've been so poor this season, and VAR for me has just highlighted how poor the standard of refereeing is, because people talk about VAR, and I put this on Twitter the other day. People talk about VAR as if it's some sort of like computer-generated system that makes decisions. It's not. It's just another one of our terrible refs sat there watching it. Mm-hmm. Like, they are appalling, genuinely appalling. And there've been so many incidents this season that in the aftermath of the game, the referee has come out and said, "Oh, do you know what? I got that wrong." Or, you know, they've had a report back and they said you made X, Y, Z mistakes, or they've rescinded stuff like they have done in this past week. How can they be rescinding red cards in the world of VAR when they can watch it 5-10 times? How is that right? It doesn't make any sense. And, you know, obviously from a Liverpool perspective, we had the Van Dijk and Jordan Pickford thing that Michael Oliver then came out 2 weeks ago and said, "Oh yeah, you know, I made a mistake. I should have sent him off." that's not good enough. Like, you know, the game was 3 months ago, and we had no referees at the last World Cup. I think it was 2018, and everyone's like, "Oh, why have the Premier League got no referees in it?" Well, I'll tell you why. Because they're really poor, genuinely really poor, and you know, I don't watch enough foreign football to see that they're better, but I tell you now, the Champions League refs sometimes, and they're from like Armenia, you think, what the hell's this guy doing? But they're all right sometimes, you know, they're decent, and you can see why we had none at the World Cup, because people say Michael Oliver is our best one, and he's not great, you know. And then you look at some of them without naming names, and they're not fit enough to keep up with the game. Like, the Premier League is fast, and you look at some of the rest of it. How are you supposed to keep up with this game of football? It's not going to happen. So yeah, I'm at the end of. You probably can tell I'm at the end of my tether really with refs. I think it's more uncommon now to go through a game and the ref not make a massive mistake than it is like for them to get away with the whole game. But not only the big mistakes and the glaring errors, but it's silly little things for 90 minutes that they're giving free kicks for that aren't free kicks, and it's just they won't get talked about because it doesn't really matter in the context of the game. But they're so poor, it's really bad.
Yeah, they are absolutely terrible. I can't agree more. The referees are just dreadful, and you know, Mike Dean, I will happily say it, I'm not a fan for various reasons why I don't like Mike Dean. I think he's you know, and you know, I'm just not a fan. I think he makes the game all about him, to be honest. But the referees, they're just poor. And as Dan said, VAR, it's not some supercomputer, you know, like, you know, is another referee. And you know, how many decisions this week have we seen that, you know, like certain red cards that have been given and then rescinded, and you go, well, it's not even a red card, and you know, and they've looked at it 50 different times, and you still give a red card. You're like, well, you've made the wrong decision. How can you do? We all know it's not a red card, you know. And I almost think with red cards being rescinded, just a personal point of view, but red cards being rescinded it's always worse. You're like, well, great, it's been rescinded, but it doesn't change the result, does it? Because
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you're right.
You shouldn't need to rescind them because you shouldn't send him off in the first place. You know, it's like with the Souček one against Fulham. I mean, it's not even I don't understand what he's. And John Moss has said, look out for the clenched fist. Like, laugh. It's not even a foul. And don't get me wrong, Mitrovic went down like he'd been shot. And you know, come on, it's not a red card.
It's not just the referees. You know, we look at the thing the other week when City scored that goal against Aston Villa that was obviously offside. Like, everyone with any ounce of football knowledge could see that should have been given as offside. The goal gets given. It gets explained in the law, in the rules and what have you. Peter Walters on BT says, no, I think it's offside, and it's not. Whatever. 2 weeks later, they changed the law. That can't be right. Like, Villa would be sitting there. They got beat 2-0. That was the first goal. They should be sitting there or right into the league and saying, well, hang on, it was 0-0 when that happened. Yeah. That's not... Villa, you know, it might not matter because they're not going to get relegated. But say, for instance, just for argument's sake, they finish a point off Champions League. You know, they'll be well within their rights to say, well, you changed the law 2 weeks after that happened. You know, it's just, with everything that's going on in football at the minute in terms of no fans and the game's feeling a little bit hollow and all that sort of stuff, the officials being so inept and VAR not helping is not helping football generally.
No, definitely not. You know, and I mean, you look at the Bednarek one, they got rescinded. The Souček one got rescinded, and rightly so. But then I just don't understand why David Luiz did get rescinded. I don't understand what was the difference. You know, it baffled me. And he got a red card for that. And you know, Sunday with Man City Liverpool, was it Diaz brought down Salah? You know, it's no different to what David Luiz done. You know, and yeah, VAR. We almost need VAR for VAR. You know, it's just so poor, and you know, even the commentators they go, let's not foul that, and Mike Dean, he went over to the Souček one and looked at it from 25 different angles, and he still come up with a red card, and he even looked at it and I don't, you know, it should be down to the referee's final decision. It should be VAR should be there as last resort, going go have a look. What do you reckon? And it baffles me, it really does, and it's just poor every week. You know, we're not talking about football anymore. It's all about VAR again, and it's just. And I think that's spot on. It's not some supercomputer that plays chess. It's John Moss normally, because he can't keep up playing. He can't keep up. He's a poor ref, John Moss. Almost as bad as Craig Pawson. And they're all dreadful. They're absolutely dreadful. Bring back Pierluigi Collina, that's what I say.
Yeah, I do. It's an interesting point you make because I do feel like VAR, despite its faults, has been used as a scapegoat a lot of the time for what is just simply poor refereeing. I mean, VAR isn't the one that makes decisions at the end of the day. It's the technology that allows referees to do it. And they're still making the wrong decisions, and they're either using it wrongly, or in some cases, they're not using it at all. And like you say, there's in places like Italy, VAR, it had problems at the start, but it has gotten much better, and it has helped things somewhat. So, and there's no reason it can't do the same here as well. If the problem is the standard of officiating. So, I do think there needs to be much more accountability held to referees, but I don't think they will, because I think they are just so full of themselves, a lot of them. I mean, there's no doubt they just want to be the center of attention so much, and they won't, they won't face any consequences for what they do. Like the fact that Mike Dean himself took himself out of the game and not the FA themselves says all you need to know, really. I mean, they have no interest in giving referees consequences for what they do.
Absolutely, and why can't we hear what the referees are saying? VAR.
Yeah.
In rugby they do it, and every other sport they do it. Like in NFL, like in the Super Bowl the other night.
They do it in football in Australia. I don't know if you've seen the clip going around. It's really quite interesting.
Yeah, and that way, if they get something wrong, we might understand why they got it wrong. But rather than, I saw something a while ago now that they won't implement that until something like 2025. And I'm like, what? How hard is it to get a microphone? I mean, come on, it's not hard. Yeah,
the protected species, aren't they, referees? That's what it is. Like they come in for that much criticism that they're beyond the realms of like explaining the decisions. They're too high up for that, which is wrong, But they're held at such high esteem by those that employ them that they're beyond all criticism, and they can't come out and explain decisions, because people keep saying, why didn't they come out at the end of the game and say, oh, this is why I did this, etc., etc. But you're never going to hear from a referee. Never going to happen.
No, and with Mike Dean, don't get me wrong, I'm not his biggest fan by any stretch of the imagination. For various reasons against Arsenal, he doesn't like us for some strange reason. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but the death threats are dreadful and disgusting, and I don't wish that on anyone. He's made mistakes before, he'll make them again. That's what Mike Dean does, and I'm sure he'll be centre of attention while he does it. But yeah, the rest is so poor, and like even tonight there'll be a refereeing decision that'll be dreadful, and VAR will be spending 25 minutes looking at a dodgy handball. You're like, it's not handball.
I do want to add to the point that I made in the last category as well, like about the abuse and all that. Death threats, I'm more than okay with people being arrested for, because that is a call to violence, and that is a threat. No, that's a no-brainer for me. It's just the actual. Yeah, it's just the racial slurs, like as terrible as they are. Like, I'm not sure that is a justified arrest, but regardless, we've done with that topic.
What we've just said on referees here is right. We've just sat here. But in terms of like the fact that we haven't abused them, we haven't said anything nasty about them, necessarily a couple of jokes about not keeping up with play, but that's not exactly vicious. Just generally, they're not very good. And, I'd be the first to sit here and say, that ref's really great, and he does a great job every time I've watched him, but it's just not the case. Like I touched upon, Michael Oliver's supposedly the best one we've got, and he's had some absolute shockers this season. It's not good enough.
Do you ever go to a game when you get your programme, you think, look at the team news, and then the first thing I look at is who's the ref, and you're like, oh, it's been, oh great, that's it then, 3 points to them, great.
Yeah, it's not good though, is it? Like we proclaim to be the best league in the world, and yet the refereeing standards are through the floor.
Yeah, well, we may get our chance to have the last laugh of the referees, quite literally, because we're at the Let's All Laugh At, and I'm afraid mine is one that you can't pin the referees on, Dan, because I've gone for Mo Salah and his ridiculous dive for the penalty. I don't think there's much defending. Although, to be fair, I can't talk as a Palace fan, because Jordan Ayew was doing the exact same thing for the whole game and not even getting a decision. Regardless, I don't think it helps his reputation at all. And I'm someone that likes Mo Salah, and I'm used to having players that get accused of diving and half the time are totally innocent. But I can't defend him on this one, and I feel like in such a big game as that as well. And the fact that they scored so quickly after they got the penalty as well, whether or not the crowd had an effect on it, you decide. But I couldn't help. It was Newcastle last week. I've gone for Liverpool this week, so feel free to get me back for that.
I mean, no. You've touched a very slight nerve with this, right? And I'll tell you for why. Because, listen, what Mo Salah's done is he's gone down to win a penalty. It is a penalty because he's pulled him back. But if he stays on his feet, the penalty doesn't get given. So I completely understand why he's gone down. He's gone down far too dramatically. It's not beat around the bush. It's horrendous the way he's fell. But if he stands on his feet and just turns around to the ref and says, he's just pulled me, nothing happens. What I will say is, though, I don't get why Mo Salah, by the media in particular, not us here, is used as the poster boy for this. Because last week, We just talked about Bednarek getting rescinded because Anthony Martial dived. No one said a word. Like that red card was rescinded because Martial dived in what happened, and no one said a thing about it. And my biggest bugbear of all are two of my most favourite footballers, Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling. They get away with murder on this because they're English. Like it gets billed by the media as clever when they do it. That Harry Kane thing we spoke about the other week, when he nearly breaks people's neck, it's clever play when he does it. But when it's Mo Salah, it's the world's worst thing. Like, all I've heard all day from loads of different people is how it was horrendous, and it was horrendous. But, like, everyone's doing it. Like, Martial did it last week, and there hasn't been a gang out to get him like there has been with Salah. It's a real vendetta, and he hasn't helped himself 100%. But he's not the only one, and it seems like he is to me.
No, I will totally agree with that, and I will clear. I'm not trying to single him out by any means. It's just the one from this week that I thought.
Yeah, 100%. It was awful, like I say, but I'm just referring more generally to what seems to be a case against him. And listen, he has done it in the past, and he doesn't help himself. But in terms of that incident, like I touched upon, I'd love him to be able to turn around to the ref and go, he just pulled my arm, you know. But if he does that, nothing happens. So
you bang on, Dan. I mean, and of course, I think if Harry Kane was to, he might as well bring some swimming trunks sometimes and go. He could dive.
But it's clever when he does it because he's England captain.
Oh, he's clever. You know, I think Harry Kane. I said it before on this podcast. I think Harry Kane could probably pick up the ball from his own half, run with it, and then kick the ball in the back of the net, and then someone will go, "Well, it's good play that." It sounds bold. He's run with it. No, well, it's quite clever. No, it's not. It's cheating. That's what it is.
Yeah, it drives me wild. Like I say, it sounds like I'm having to get you, George. I mean, it's just I'm just a bit fed up of the whole thing, to be honest with you, because I know it's bad, but it seems like when it's him, it's like the world's worst thing, as if no one's done it before. But last week, Martial, why has Bednarek's red card been rescinded? Because it was a dive. No one's mentioned it.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you behind on that one. That wasn't
anyway. Sorry,
and I completely understand it as well. Because, like I said, we've had exactly the same with Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very true. Wilfried Zaha was the same years ago. You're dead right, actually. He was made the scapegoat for all of this when everyone's doing it.
Yeah, and he wasn't even like he wasn't even like, I mean, that's a totally separate topic, but he wasn't diving nearly as much as everyone likes to make out. Like one time where Arsenal fan, like I don't know if you remember the Arsenal game where everyone said he dived for the penalty, and Xhaka literally came out and said, "Yeah, I got him. It was a penalty." Like I just thought that was ridiculous.
I don't believe Xhaka would take anyone out. What are you talking about? Granit Xhaka wouldn't do anything to anyone.
Well, you'll take him out if we let you loose. We got to be careful.
That takes me on to mine. Sorry, it's of an Arsenal ilk. William Saliba.
Oh God, yeah.
What's he up to there?
Apparently it's quite an old video, isn't it? Apparently.
Yeah, it's not. It's not
that it matters. Not that it matters. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years old. I don't know what he's doing. Bizarre.
It's not great. I won't go into detail, but a video has emerged of. Is he an Arsenal player? Does he play for you?
Well, he's signed for us. He's on loan at Nice, I think. That's where he's gone.
He's on loan again, is he? Yeah.
Again.
Well, he's enjoying himself in a video that's emerged. So,
just to be clear, I think his legal team are currently on that, so I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about it.
I'll leave it there quite happily.
So, yeah. Let's just say there's an incident that's gone on. An alleged incident that we found quite amusing.
I'd love to be in that meeting. So William, what the fuck were you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, if you want to look up the details, go yourself. But we don't really want to touch that.
He was doing something similar by the looks of it.
Oh.
To be fair, if any, I'd be amazed if any of his legal team somehow stumbles upon this video. So we're probably safe. With all 10 of our viewers, but just to be on the safe side. Yeah. So what have you got, Johnny?
Do you know what? It's been difficult this week. I'm not actually. It's been difficult.
I've been struggling as well, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I only picked Salah because it was all I could find. Like, I don't normally pick ones like that. But
I mean, I suppose one from the other night when United thought they were beating Everton, and all over Twitter there's certain United fans who were saying, "That's it, we're going to win the league," and then they concede a goal 10 seconds later.
Someone posted the result, didn't they? Someone posted who scored the third goal for United, but they basically put whoever it was.
McTominay, I think it was.
McTominay with the match winner, and they posted the result, and then 10 seconds later they conceded.
Yeah, and I think David De Gea as well, because he's he's been poor, hasn't he, really, the past couple of weeks. He's been, the first goal was poor goalkeeping. I could laugh at Harry Maguire for playing everyone onside.
That was funny, yeah. Seeing that video, that was good.
Yeah, but there's been a lot, but United dropping points is always quite funny, especially when they think they're going to win the league, which is quite amusing. But yeah, I've got a lot. It's been difficult, actually.
Yeah, I think Man United probably wins in general then, because the other two are a bit more. I mean, one is very controversial, and the other is just touching a sore spot clearly. So, but in the right way. So yeah.
The Salah one, listen, in isolation, the Salah one is one, horrendous, and two, funny. But like I say, when you break it down and think, well, I don't really know what else you can do, because I think personally, just to finish up, I think refs should give penalties when there's a foul without having to go down. But it's never going to happen.
If there's shirt pulling, then I agree. Like you should, because then that encourages going down. Like if you have to stay on your feet in order to not get the penalty, like why would players not go down?
He has no choice, in my opinion. He has no choice there, because if he turns around, like I say, and goes, "Hang on, he just pulled my arm," the ref's just going to laugh at him and say, "Well, should have gone down." Then should you know what I mean?
It's no different to the Lacazette one against Villa. They're both holding on to each other, but Martinez is grabbing Lacazette. Like, it's a penalty, but Lacazette doesn't go down. If he goes down,
nothing happens. Yeah.
And players. We're always slagging players off for diving, but if they don't go down, they don't get anything. I mean, the Salah one was quite amusing.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, literally.
It was very soft, don't get me wrong, but Ruben Dias got the wrong side of him, and it's a penalty.
He should have left him, shouldn't he? Ruben Dias should have just left him go. That's what should have happened.
To be fair, it's not easy to let Mo Salah go when he's in the box. But
granted, no, but if he wanted to avoid a possible red card like Johnny touched upon and a definite penalty, then he has no choice. As soon as he grabs him by the arm, that's it, isn't it? Really.
Yep. All right then. Well, that's about all the time we've got for this episode. So be sure to drop us a like and a follow, whatever platform you're on. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify at Let's All Laugh at the Football Podcast, as well as Twitter at LALA_podcast. Be sure to check out Dan's work on Last Word on Football and Read Liverpool. Be sure to check out Johnny's work at Life's a Pitch. Be sure to check out our social media. Links in the description as always. Thanks to Dan and Johnny for joining me. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.